When I listened to these readings earlier this week, I was reminded of a story about a set of twins, two boys. And their personalities were so opposite. The one boy was the eternal optimist. Everything was coming up roses. Nothing could go wrong. The other son, the other twin, was the eternal pessimist. He believed in Murphy's Law, that if anything could go wrong, it would go wrong. Now, their parents were very concerned about them. They didn't want them to grow up with just that kind of personality. They wanted them to be more balanced. So they took them to a psychiatrist who interviewed both of the boys and then came back to the parents and said, "We have to make them a bit more balanced. And so on their next birthday, I want you to try something, an experiment. For your son who's the pessimist, I want you to buy him the best gifts that you can find, the best toys, the most expensive. And for your son who's the eternal optimist, I want you to get him a box of horse manure. And I want you to put them in separate rooms and give them their gifts." So the birthday came, and in the one room was all of these wonderful gifts, computers, games, video games, all kinds of things, the best that the parents could find. And in the other room was a box of horse manure. So they put their one son, the pessimist, in the room with all of the gifts. And then they looked in on him a little bit later, and he was sitting there saying, "I bet you we could get a computer a lot faster than this one. These video games, they're old. I want the best. I want newer ones." And on, just being pessimistic about all of these wonderful gifts. They put their other son in the other room, and when they looked in on him, he was sitting in the middle of the floor, throwing the manure up in the air and said, "You can't fool me. With all of this manure, there's got to be a pony here somewhere." I thought of that story just because of the gospel today. I think Peter shows us both sides of faith. The optimistic faith, that Jesus is the Christ. He believes in Him. But then when Christ explains that it's going to get a little bit tougher, that it's going to be a struggle, that you're going to have to take up your cross, well then Peter's not so sure he wants to live out this faith. It's perhaps the challenge for us in life. What faith do we live by? An optimistic faith that finds Jesus in everything that we do, in every part of life and in living of life? Or is it a pessimistic faith, worried about fear and struggle and trouble and pain and sorrow? We're challenged today to live by the optimistic faith, to find Christ in everything that we do, to live it out, and to make it present. As Isaiah says, if God is for us, who really can be against us? Let us believe in that God that is always with us, that is always present. In grateful confidence, we ask God to hear our petitions, so that the love of God may come to perfection within us.